Okay, let's dive in. You've probably felt this, right? Staring at your business plan, or maybe just trying to figure out the next step and wondering, is there some kind of secret map, some ultimate formula everyone else has?
Yeah, there's just so much advice flying around. It gets overwhelming fast. What really works?
That feeling, that's exactly what led us to the source material for today's deep dive. We've been digging into these excerpts, one called The Ultimate Business Strategy Pillars, and also a transcript from a show called Business Unfiltered.
Trying to find the signal and all that noise.
Exactly. So, our mission today is pretty straightforward. Cut right to the core ideas, the really impactful stuff from these sources.
We want to kind of distill those foundational principles.
Yeah, and talk about how they suggest you can avoid some common traps. And hopefully give you principles you can actually use, whatever your business situation is.
And the first, big takeaway, the source kind of hits you with this right off the bat, is that there isn't one single ultimate strategy. It just doesn't work like that.
Right. What worked for a huge tech company is going to be totally useless for, say, a local coffee shop.
Or a small agency trying to just copy Amazon or Tesla. Probably not going to end well.
Because your context, your customers, your strengths, they're just completely different.
But what is universal, according to these sources, are the underlying principles, the core ideas behind any good strategy.
And that's what they really focus on. They boil it down to 5 key principles, pillars, they call them.
Backbone of an effective approach.
You ready to jump into the first one?
Let's do it.
Okay, pillar number 1, clarity of purpose. The source uses this great analogy: you can't win if you don't know what game you're playing. What's the essence here?
It's really about going deeper than just, making money. It's finding your fundamental reason for being, your why.
Why do you actually exist beyond profit?
Exactly. What unique thing are you bringing to the table? The source points to Apple. Their purpose wasn't just selling gadgets, it was challenging the norm, innovation.
Or Nike, inspiring athletes, not just selling sneakers.
Right. So the core question becomes, what actual problem are you solving for people? And why does that problem matter? Why should anyone care?
Yes, that's fuzzy.
Then everything else gets scattered. Your team doesn't have a clear direction. Your customers don't get why you are special. The challenge here is, can you, the listener, state your core purpose clearly, like in one sentence?
That clarity seems essential, and it connects right into the second pillar: know your customer deeply.
Oh, yeah.
The source is pretty blunt here. It says you need to know your customer better than they know themselves. That's a lot.
It sounds extreme, maybe, but it's about the depth of insight required. You have to look beyond the surface stuff.
Beyond what they say they want.
Exactly. Understand their fears, their hopes, their unspoken needs. What are they really struggling with day to day? What gets them excited?
And the sources mention practical tools, right? Surveys, interviews, data.
Absolutely. Those are the tools you use to dig for those deeper truths. It's not just academic. The argument is that the best brands, they don't just sell stuff, they create experiences.
And you can only do that if you truly get the person you're creating it for.
Precisely. So the question for you is, how much time are you genuinely spending listening to, analyzing, and trying to understand your customers on that deeper level?
Okay, pillar 3. This is one I think a lot of businesses wrestle with, especially early on. Focus on one thing and do it exceptionally well.
The classic jack of all trades, master of none problem.
Right. Why is focus so critical according to these sources?
Well, they argue that trying to be good at everything just leads to being mediocre across the board. Strategy is about picking your spot, finding your core strength, the thing you can be truly great at, and then just doubling down on it.
The example they used that really clicked for me was Domino's. They weren't shooting for the title of best gourmet pizza ever.
No, not at all. Their focus was completely different. It became deliver a decent hot pizza fast.
Yeah.
Faster than anyone else.
The 30-minute delivery guarantee.
That was their superpower. They mastered the system for speed and reliability. That was their focus, not necessarily being the best tasting pizza.
That's such a key distinction. It's not about being amazing at everything, but world-class at the one thing that matters most to your specific customer.
Exactly that. So what's that one thing for you? What can you uniquely own and just nail better than anyone else?
Which flows really nicely into pillar 4. Build systems, not just products. The source draws this contrast: a great product might get you in the game.
But a great system is what lets you actually scale up.
Why is that system part so vital for growth?
Because when you're starting out, you're probably doing, well, everything yourself,
Right.
which isn't sustainable. To grow, you need processes that work consistently, even when you're not personally involved in every single step.
Like the McDonald's example they bring up, it's not about the world's best burger.
Definitely not. It's about that incredibly efficient, repeatable system for making and serving food quickly and consistently, no matter where you are in the world.
So the sources talk about things like automation.
Yep. Automating tasks that can be automated, delegation trusting others to handle parts of the process, and SOPs, standard operating procedures.
Which sounds very corporate, maybe?
It can sound that way, but really it's just about documenting how things are done correctly time after time. These aren't just buzzwords. They're the building blocks for a business that can actually grow without falling apart.
Mm.
How are you turning your hustle into something scalable?
Okay, and the final pillar, number 5, adapt fast. Always be learning. This one feels crucial today. The sources stress that change is the only constant. Markets, customers, tech, it's all moving.
And survival, they argue, isn't really about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being the most adaptable.
The consequences of not adapting can be brutal, like Kodak.
Yeah, Kodak's a classic example. They didn't fail just because film died out. They actually invented early digital camera tech, but they were too slow, too hesitant to adapt their business model.
Wow. And then you contrast that with someone like Netflix.
Right. Constantly changing. DVDs by mail, then streaming, then creating their own shows, often making big shifts before they absolutely had to.
So it's more of a mindset.
It's definitely a mindset. Staying curious, staying lean, hungry, as the source puts it. It's less about having the perfect 5-year plan locked down.
And more about having the ability to change that plan quickly when you get new information or the market shifts.
Exactly. Are you actively looking for those signals of change? Are you building that muscle for adaptability into how you operate?
Those 5 pillars, clarity, customer knowledge, focus, systems, agility, that's a solid framework. The sources also had a few bonus tips or mistakes to avoid. Quick ones.
Yeah, simple but important. First, get feedback. Early, often. Don't build your thing in isolation. Talk to real people.
Which loops right back to knowing your customer, doesn't it?
It's the practical side of it, yeah. Another one. Don't just blindly copy what your competitors are doing.
Why not? If it works for them.
Because their success is tied to their specific situation, their history, their team, their customers. What works over there might totally bomb for you. You need to understand the principles, not just mimic the tactics.
Makes sense. And the last one they mentioned was pretty powerful. Fall in love with the problem you solve.
Not just your current product or solution.
What's the thinking there?
It keeps you focused on the customer's actual need. If you love the problem, you'll stay open to finding the best way to solve it, even if that means your product has to change radically down the line. If you only love your current product, you might miss the boat when a better solution comes along.
These feel like really practical guardrails.
Yeah, good reality checks.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. What is this ultimate business strategy then, according to these sources, if it's not one single formula?
It's clearly not that. It's more like a dynamic mindset, maybe, grounded in those 5 core principles we talked about.
Purpose, customer insight, focus, systems, and agility.
Exactly. Knowing your why, knowing your who, knowing your what, the one thing, knowing your how, the systems, and being ready to change any of it.
So it feels less like a rigid map and more like a compass and a toolkit?
That's a great way to put it. And the sources use this nice analogy. Business isn't a sprint. It's not even really just a marathon. It's this ongoing journey.
A continuous process of building, learning, adapting.
Right. And like any journey, it starts with taking a step.
And the sources kind of leave you with this final thought, almost a challenge.
Yeah, the idea that the most important step is the one you take today, right now. How does understanding these pillars change the next thing you do?
That's the real question for you listening right now. Look at those pillars again. Clarity, customer, focus, systems, agility. Which one jumps out at you?
Where's your biggest challenge right now? Or maybe your biggest opportunity?
Thinking about that just for a minute could really clarify what your next step should be.
Focusing on strengthening that one pillar might be the most impactful thing you can do today.
Well, this has been a deep dive into the source material around these core pillars of business strategy. Thanks for digging into this with us.
Keep asking questions, keep building.
And keep adapting.